Hello drummers, Gary Williams here, your Drumset mastermind and creator of the Drumset Artistry Mastermind group. Today in my Facebook Live video, I'd like to talk about practice plan problems. That's right, a practicing schedule. Many of you drummers out there probably would like to be better, but maybe have not been able to successfully organize a practice routine. You may not know what kind of things would really help you improve your drumming. You don't work on certain subjects of drumming, and you probably find yourself getting very frustrated because you're wondering what it is that I need to do to actually really improve my drumming. So I get this. This is a big issue for a lot of drummers because they want to get better, but they simply don't know what they need to practice. And there's a lot of information in the drumming community about technical exercises and not nearly enough emphasis, in my opinion, on how to become a great musical drummer. It's mostly about practicing all these little techniques, and then how fast you can play is almost a measure of your skill set. It's become a little bit like athletics, where we're measuring stats instead of actually connecting to the emotion of the music. So I'm going to briefly share with you a story about my practice perfectionism issue that I had. That's the other issue, is a lot of us get frustrated because it has to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, it's not good enough. So I went into school one day and my jazz studies director was telling me about this great drummer that played on the Johnny Carson show. Started to freak me out. Then told me how great he was. And oh man, I should have watched him. And so I started to panic because I want to be his favorite drummer. So I said, how long do you think I need to practice to become as good as this guy? He said, oh man, you'd have to practice like 8 hours a day for 2 years. Now, he was probably exaggerating, but I took this to heart because I wanted to be an expert drummer. That was more than anything. And some of you can probably relate to this feeling of that's what I want to do with my life, is be just a drummer. That's it. So I got this idea that, well, I had to quit school then. And so I went home and announced to my parents that I needed more time to practice. So I was planning on quitting school. My dad, who's actually not always cool, but was pretty cool, said, well, I've always told you that you can live here and go to college and not have to pay rent if you go to school full time. But if you don't go to school full time, then you're going to have to pay rent or find another place to live. That kind of shot down this whole perfect practice plan where I could just spend all day indulging in practicing if I wanted. And I realized that if I got a job, then I would be working and wouldn't have the time. And it just didn't work out. I talked to a friend of mine about this who I respected, and he asked me the question, which I'm going to ask you. He said, are you at this point in time taking advantage of every spare moment that you have to practice to justify that that's not enough and that you need more? And I realized, no, I wasn't. I was just had this perfect picture of what it had to be like in order for me to be really good at practicing. So let me say this. Some practice is better than no practice. And in this particular situation, when I was in college, I was so frustrated one time about my practicing. I was going to practice 4 hours a day. And then if I didn't practice 4 hours a day that day, I was going to practice an extra hour the next day. And the whole thing turned into being this like self-sabotaging. I was angry. I got pissed off. I cried. And I just said, screw it. And I took a break from practicing for a while. And then when I came back, I started to have this better relationship. I shifted the whole attitude I had, which was always focusing on the negative. And the big issue that I learned, and this is something I really help and work with my clients on, is developing a practice routine that goes somewhere. I was just doing the same old stuff I'd been doing. I didn't have a teacher, so I didn't have any insights. I didn't have anybody guiding me or mentoring me to show me what I needed to do next. And so I just finally had to give up. And so some of you probably can relate to this, where you get really frustrated because you're not improving. Maybe you can't practice as many minutes or hours a day as you want because you have a full-time job or family. I get that. But there are ways to structure a practice routine. And I've written an article called How to Practice. It's been published twice in Modern Drummer and some other journals, because time management skills are tough in today's world. We're very busy. We're all doing lots of stuff. But if you're interested in really wanting to figure out how to overcome this emotional frustration and perfectionism of having to practice so many hours a day, it's not so much the amount of time you practice, it's what you practice and the way in which you practice. So that's an area that I'm an expert in, is time management skills, helping you organize a practice routine. What should you start with? What should you do second? What should you do third? How much time you should spend on each subject? What are the subjects that are really important and valuable? Are you working on mechanical skills, but also focusing some time on musical skills? Maybe you don't know how to read and would like to learn how to develop that skill, or don't know your rudiments very well. All these things I help my clients with who are frustrated because they haven't been able to come up with a game plan, and that's where I provide the solution. So if you're ready to make this change and you'd like to figure out a way to really organize a practice routine, then private message me so I can get you the same results I give my other clients. This is something I'm very comfortable doing, spend a lot of time working on this, and I have a plan that works. So that's my message for today. If you want to change the game, take your drumming to the next level, and give to yourself, then contact me and we'll come up with a plan that works for you. All right, until then, I'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of this day, and we'll talk very soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.